Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Media Show on the Pod-TV network. I'm Nick Palavito. I'll be your host part-time. And the other host I'm going to bring in, which will be Mark Lee. I'm going to turn over the reins to you, but also we have a request that you run Irene's show today.
I saw that, and I'll jump out there, and we'll see what we can do.
Because I am
Keep her happy
really
and everything like that.
booked. I'm triple booked, which is really not fun. So
Well, you're always triple booked. You got insurance, you got everything going on, you got that pension fund and everything like that. But we've got some amazing shows here on the network. I know one of them that we talk about quite often, and we had him on our two earlier shows, is what's going on in Ukraine, Russia, and China. And that's, of course, with the great Sasha Starr, who has also got things that are talking about chess. And I think that you'll call this the chess moves, meaning Pod-TV is making some chess moves as well, because we've got QDR codes and we've got other things that we've got going on. But he's got a chess program. He's also got a show called Modern Investment. And speaking of chess moves, I was going to bring in one of the guests that we don't always have with us and everything and all along those lines. But that is Viviana, who does the Que Pasa Mohair, along with her cousin Nick Tay, as well as Maddie Garcia, a poet and a banker, and all along those lines. But I think it's one of our more popular shows because every time I turn it on, it's getting all kinds of views and all along those lines. But she's based up the road from me in Virginia, but she's definitely talks about the economic power of the Latin American community, because she has, I think it's $3.5 trillion is the economic power that they bring to the United States and all along those lines. So that's something she talks about quite often, because that is what their economic growth is. And definitely.
Buenos dias, señorita.
Buenos dias.
From Barcelona.
Gracias.
Gracias. Muchas gracias. I actually live in Barcelona, Spain. So I'm here, and I'm struggling with Espanol. Muy Espanol, muy mal.
It's okay. With AI, who cares? You make it work.
Yeah, I am working on it. And I did put chess and Pod-TV because here's what I want to talk to Sasha about. And Mark here, and you'll be really good at this. Okay, here's El Plano, but put it through your heads here for Pod-TV on a going forward basis. That what we do, and I'll start with chess because chess is kind of easy. Sasha, is that Pod-TV, through our corporate sponsors, is willing to sponsor chess games where people submit their games to you, as long as they're not grandmasters, masters, or experts. They got to be just regular players. Their best games. And Ken Reagan, you guys choose which is the best game of the month, and then we give them the award of $500 to $1,000, okay, per ones that do submission. Now, Mark, we're going to move forward on this because this is not just a one-time thing. And also, Vivian, I'm glad you're here because we're going to do that for every show. So you have to think. This is called the book, Think and Grow Rich, all right? You have to think, what would be a good contest to have for your viewers? In other words, what they could submit to your viewers. And then what Pod-TV's corporate sponsor will do is provide a prize for $500 to $1,000 for doing a submission. And we can also do that in Jatovi's Gamers Den. Now, some of this stuff is pretty easy because I was going through it that, submit your best game, submit your best idea for Que Pasa Mirror. But you guys have to think about what you want to do. And then what happens, we're going to offer cash awards to the people that submit to your television.
Man, we actually had that, but we didn't have a prize to go with it.
Mark, you do it for your shows?
We didn't have a prize to go with it, unfortunately.
Because but you create a prize.
One of Viviana's fellow hosts and everything is a poet. So she actually got all of us, myself as her producer, to do a poem. I'm not a great poet. My poem was actually very bad and everything, but Viviana, I think, did a masterful job, as did her cousin, Nick Day. So maybe that's what they will redo, is this whole poetry notion, because Madeline had us all do a poem and everything.
It could be the best poem, and then the people on your show judge it, and then we do an award for that. Now, where am I getting this strategy from? There's a guy in North Carolina called Mr. Beast, okay? And Mr. Beast uses that strategy, but he doesn't use it strategically with viewers. He just runs out and randomly hands people like 10 grand or stuff like that to attract viewers. We're not going to do that, okay? We're going to strategically hand these funds to our viewers as long as they submit to our producers, certain things that are awarded. And our corporate sponsor will be willing to underwrite that. So it's something that we're going to announce, and we're going to start off in May of this year, doing that program. I think probably start off around June the 1st. And so the thing is, it's something for you guys to think about. The book Think and Grow Rich. You got to think of the contest. I don't know what they would do on Gamers Den, to submit something so that somebody wins an award to Gamers Den, because I don't know how gamers think. Chess was easy for me. Submit your best game, okay?
The best video game.
What? What, Mark?
Toby, what do you think? Best video game, or what idea do you have as a contest?
So the interesting thing is that you're saying you're pulling it from Mr. Beast, where Mr. Beast is just a content creator who gaming was part of his stuff here and there, but he did a lot of IRL stuff. And there are tons of ways to do gaming things. I mean, there are tons of ways to do
contests. To do contests on Gamers Den,
especially around gaming. I mean, it's not.
You can do contests, and then we can give awards on Gamers Den.
I mean, that's in the actual gaming world. That's a norm. That's. I mean, so in the gaming world, for example, especially since utilizing the Twitch base. What Twitch does, you actually have different levels and different goals that you have people do. People can submit, hey, this is how they do a lot of their fundraising is I'll donate $5 for you to shout my name out. That's one of those things that they do through there in Twitch. And there's some other things that they do, getting badges and everything else. But in terms of contests, they have people do a ton of different things, from speed runs to so on and so forth. There's lots of things.
Yeah. Sasha, but by the way, I want one on stocks too, Sasha. I want somebody to submit the best stock, and they get to submit one stock that by the end of the year will have the greatest growth. Okay, so
for once
an award if they could do that. So modern investing is easy. Your shows are easy. Some of the other ones I have to.
It's one stock to buy and one stock to sell. That because today
right. You can do one stock.
Buy anything. You have to sell everything. Everything what you have. Sell everything, because market may go down another 25 to 30%, and you don't want to get stuck with all kind of garbage and then waiting for the next 6 to 7 years to recover. It's not a pretty situation. Now, speaking about chess, anyway, that's my opinion, and act accordingly. And I will have a show on Wednesday concerning financials at 1 o'clock, and I will tell you, I'm trying to say today, so maybe Wednesday's stock will be much lower than today. So, but anyway, you have to decide for yourself. Speaking about chess, Nick, there is a great danger that people will generate almost perfect chess games using computer assistants, different
good point.
and so on. Number two, what is the criteria for awarding the best game? Is when there are less mistakes, or there is a brilliant combination, or what? So there are criteria that have to be determined. It's not difficult, but still has to be done. And I would recommend that I don't want Ken to start imposing how the games were generating by computers. It's possible, but
Ken can write through his program.
Yeah, he would have to do a lot.
That's not a real game.
You would have to do a lot of disclosure. So not to go into that, I would recommend that first 4 winners will play a live speed games with 2 people in the finals. The losers are the losers. Thank you very much. And the winners will divide first and second prize. And then, only then, on level of their play in these matches, you can determine if games that were earlier submitted are computer generated or assisted or so on. So then everything will illuminate it.
Right. Yeah. But what I'm saying, I'm saying that we can be very creative on the contest that we have on every show on Pod-TV, and it's not going to dominate the show. It's just going to be it's going to be augmenting what we're doing already on the show. So, but this way it gives the viewers, because we already are engaged a lot with this new participation QR code This way, it gives the viewer some reason to show up, watch the show, and submit and be interactive, as opposed to be very passive, which is most viewership on shows are passive. And we do have that active QR code. It's not up right now, but I think that's pretty exciting. And every one of our shows, like on economics, we'd say somebody submit, oh, there's the QR code. Wow. Okay. Apparently this works. You snap the QR code and bang, you can, all of a sudden you can comment on our shows. All right. So this way the person can submit their best game. They can submit their best ideas. They can submit the best stock. And then we run a contest, and we run them on every show. And every show will have a contest so that the viewers can win something. What Mr. Beast does is something very different. He just randomly hands out money to people on the streets. I mean, after a while, I'm afraid that gets boring. And the participants, the viewers, have no shot at participating. This way, all of our viewers will have a shot. By the way, there's a downside to this. For them to register, they actually have to submit their emails to PodTV. So we basically get their emails. And there's another reason behind this. Chess players are not stupid. There's a reason by getting their emails too, Sasha, which I'll go over later with you guys. But basically, that's the name of the game plan that we're going to do on the second half. And I don't know on Casa New York, if you said learn Spanish the best, that's not going to happen with me. But the thing is, I'm sure, Vivian, there's something that you can create. This goes back to what sort of contest that you can create for your viewers that they engage in with your.
Yeah, I think this is a great idea. Like, you got me excited because I love the book, Think and Grow Rich, and I love chess. And so I apply chess to everything that I do. I'm actually reading a book right now called Your Next 5 Moves, and it's like an entrepreneurship book. So I'll talk to my team, and I'm sure we'll come up with something.
Even we have a show, VC Masters, that's run by a professor at Duke University. It just started this year. And the thing is, it's real. One idea he could do is submit your best VC, idea, and then his panel judges what it is, and then awards are given to those people. So that this way, again, the whole idea is that all our shows become participatory. Same with Mark. We have
the online dinner party.
Gospel music. We have a gospel music show with Coco. She can do the same thing. The best musical that's submitted to Coco Macmillan on gospel music, and then we give an award to that. So this way, all our viewers will have an opportunity to get an award from the PodTV network, through various different shows, depending what show they participate in. As opposed to, and again, I like Mr. Beast, but Mr. Beast you don't get to interact with him. He's going
to interact with him and everything. I was going to mention something about Viviana's show, which I know that you admired and everything, because you used to try to have a number of the shows that would be translated. But Viviana's show is the only show, because sometimes, as she knows, she teases me about it because I am the producer and I speak English and do a fairly good job of that as a journalism major. But some of her people that are on the show are very much Spanish. She had a young lady that was a interior designer, and sometimes the shows lapse into about 90% Spanish. So I'm sitting there going like, I have no idea what they're saying. They could be cussing me out for all I know and everything, but I know that Viviana likes me, so they're not doing that and everything like that. But they definitely do sometimes do their show in a Spanglish kind of mix, but sometimes the shows are majority Spanish and everything like that.
Yeah, I do understand Spanglish. You have to figure your way out and try to learn the words when you're working with somebody.
Focus on the cognates, the words that sound the same in Spanish and English.
Yes, there are a lot of words that are very similar to Spanish and also to English. So Rick, since you missed the concept, scathingly brilliant idea. I don't know if you ever saw Mr. Beast. He's actually in East North Carolina, and he has about 180 million followers, whatever the heck. But we're basically going to steal his idea in a smaller but more targeted way on all shows, including World Edition, where we run contests on all of our shows. Okay, and the thing is, people submit. So this is going back to Think and Grow Rich, because you think, hey, run a contest, that's pretty easy. No, it isn't. You got to figure out what would be a good contest that you can run on your show, and then give cash awards to the people that register for the contest and they submit their idea. And I think Jacoby's right. Gamers Den will be pretty easy, because you can even have like what Sasha said. You can even have game contests. Chess is pretty easy, and even investing is pretty easy because you just have the best investment and the worst investment.
Well, let's not forget that Rick's other show is Naked at Night, which is an argument show between him and somebody that is on the opposite ends of the spectrum. And I will sometimes pop in with a question or two. And then they've also got a troubadour that provides music. Ironically, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Rick, isn't the singer of Spanish descent and everything? Because Viviana's got that show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, also, Mark, make sure Coco comes to the meeting in North Carolina because hers is pretty easy too. In other words, the best gospel music submission. You see what I mean? And so she's like a natural target because she does gospel music, and this way people will submit their musical videos to Coco, and then and she gets to select which one is the best, and we'll make sure that they get an award. And so this goes back to Think and Grow Rich, all the contests. Now, it's going to create a little craziness in the Pod TV network because we're basically going to be a contest machine, sort of. In other words, everybody will know, oh, that's the network where you can participate and win awards, so to speak. So it's
on my show, Lance is an artist. The guy, the Trumpy guy I argue with is an artist. So if somebody wants to pop in and while we're arguing, Lance draws them, we'll give them an award and a drawing.
Okay, right, yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. You gotta think and grow rich. The first thing is think, because also for them to get the award, they have to register and get their emails to us. So, like I said, there's a downside. We get their emails, but there's a reason behind all this. In other words, they have to become a subscriber to Pod TV. If they're not a subscriber to Pod TV, forget it. They don't qualify. As they say in Pawn Stars, that ain't happening. But if they're a subscriber, then they can, and they're registered subscriber, then they can participate in the awards.
That makes sense. I like the awards. And just really quickly, since we've got some of our hosts here and all along those lines, Viviana's first time on the media show, we've got Jacoby and everybody. But just out of curiosity, and I'll start with you, Viviana, what about Pod TV is what attracted you to this particular network, and what is it about the network and your show that you really enjoy? And I'll go to the rest of the crew as well, including Rick in that Naked at Night show. But what grew you to this particular network, and what do you enjoy doing with the show on your Sundays?
I love the freedom and the diversity. So we're able to talk about any topic surrounding the Latino community, but I love the freedom and just, it's just transparent and it's free. And those are my top two.
Yep, definitely has got that freedom, and I know that that's something that Nick was prideful of, that he wanted to give a voice to many different people that had different ideas, both him and Kim Calhoun, who's actually at Zero Week. So I think I'm fair in saying that that's part of the reason that y'all created the network. Is that fair to say, Nick, and everything?
Yeah, it's to get great exposure. Plus, also, we have an international flair, is that this is distributed to 150 countries, and then it's redistributed through Facebook groups. Matter of fact, not that I'm picking on Sasha, but one of them that accepted it was a chess group had 150,000 members on your last show. I just submitted it on a redistribution. So 2023, we had 2.3 million verifiable views, but we've been stuck in this 2 to 3 million view category for like the last year. And I want to up our game so we get to like 100 million. And so I was trying to figure out, well, who else got to 100 million? 100 million is hard to get to. And the guy I came across, of course, is Mr. Beast, and he was the beast of the social media network. And I said, well, how did he do it? And he did it by doing the plan that I'm just going to, I'm just going to follow the grandmasters. In other words, follow the people that has done well. It's worked for me in chess, education, business. You find out who the leader is. I hate to say it, you copy basically what they do and you reproduce it. So I was going, well, we'll do it for the whole network. And this way, because if you go to Mr. B's show, all you're going to do is passively watch him give grants to people that he knows. And this way, it's active, that the grants go to people that watch your show. Okay. And it's not passive. They have a chance. Remember, people love lotteries. I mean, I never played the lottery. People love lotteries. How would you like a lottery that's free? We have a chance to win. and there's no downside for them. So it really creates a very, I think, very much buzz. It will send our network in a little bit different direction, a much more higher profile. But I've been down that road before. When it's higher profile, you have good news, got a lot more people watching. Bad news, you're gonna have a lot more critics. And I knew that years ago when I put ads in the New York Times. And I was spending $100,000 a month putting ads in the New York Times. And all of a sudden, we got a lot of people that hated us. Seriously, didn't even know who they were. And of course, a lot of people that loved us. That was good. And we made a lot of money, which was really good. Yeah, Rick.
So you're a lawyer. And
yes, I am. Actually,
and you could maybe figure out a way. You can't give away awards in perpetuity, something that goes on for infinite time. But you could if you could figure out how to legally structure a deal where we give somebody $10 a year for the next 100 million years, we could give away $1 billion if you could figure out how to.
Okay, we can give money away perpetuity, but let me tell you how we're going to do it. I run a very successful pension company that does retirement planning. Our plan is, in all your shows, there will be an ad relating to investing in retirement funds. So that's how we're going to do it. And as long as, I've talked to my people there, as long as people continually submit, and we're going to be selling a lot of what they call fixed equity index annuities. People don't even know what they are. But to give you an idea how big that market is, go look it up on the internet. Last year, 492 or 497 billion was sold in annuities. We sell millions per week, which is one reason I have to go. It's because it just keeps, it's a gift that keeps on giving. And so the thing is, what we're going to do is we have a profit center behind it, and we're going to do is donate a certain amount of the profits to these contests. So it'll go on as long as people fund annuity contracts, as long as people do. So, you know, I think it will go on into perpetuity, and I've been doing this for 23 years. I mean, I kind of like the.
Can we say that you could win $1 billion by watching Pod TV?
Well, we can't because we don't have we don't have enough resources to support that at this point in time. But we do have the resources to support what I'm saying right now. You know, we're going to start small, and then we're going to start ratcheting it up as we start getting well, they call it assets under management, basically. I'm already working on the licensing and stuff like that. I could do it through national pension partners, but NPP only takes high-end business. In other words, we have minimums of like $100,000. Not everybody has 100,000. We open up the annuity contracts to everybody, then it doesn't matter. Somebody put $1,000 in, $500, even $100 in. So I'm working on doing that side of the equation. And once you work on that side of the equation, then Rick, it goes as long as people sign up for annuity contracts. And you'd think not a lot of annuities are sold. Go look it up. Fixed annuities and annuity sales in the United States were $500 billion last year. You know, and so our multi-million dollar sales that we do out of NPP is nothing compared to the national market and potentially the international market on that. So we're going to be selling a lot of annuity contracts. It's not.
What we've got going on is we've got niche marketing, because I know a lot of things are niche marketing. Apparently, that's the new trend just in terms of media. Because one of the articles I was reading about media talked about there's a woman that is started a magazine. You'll love this because I know it's one of definitely Steve's interests. I think it's one of your interests as well, Sasha. But she has started up a new publication called Racket Magazine, which is a new tennis magazine. So it looks like a lot of people are doing niche contests and niche marketing. So that seems to be the trend in media these days, where everybody's trying to have their own little niche and everything. Maybe there's several. In fact, I know there's several because Kent talked about them. Chess magazines out there as well. So what is our thoughts around this notion of niche marketing and that being the wave of the future, just in terms of media and everything? Because definitely it looks like a lot of people are doing niche marketing. I know there's even niche marketing in the Latin community. Anybody?
Sorry, I was distracted. I know that so I may not be answering the question correctly, but historically, advertising for the Latin community has been crappy and an afterthought. Even in LA, where there's a huge Latin market, you'd see sophisticated advertising campaigns for products, and then you'd look at the Spanish language advertising for the same product, and it was very amateurish. So I would like to see, and I think it's happening as people are more aware of, the economic power the Latin market has, is just better, more sophisticated, more clever advertising.
And that's one of the things that Viviana does. One of her cohorts on the show is actually her cousin, and she is a brand and marketing wizard. So she does a lot of stuff in that space and all along those lines. So Viviana, if you're still there, your thoughts around this whole notion of brand marketing? She might have frozen. I think she froze.
There's another thing that's, until she unfreezes, there's another thing.
I'm sorry, my internet is a little choppy. I don't know if you can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you a little bit. It's a little choppy. Go ahead while we wait and everything.
All right. So one thing that's happening in advertising is biracial couples that, until 20, 30, 40 years ago, it was illegal in some states to even marry biracially. And now people don't give a crap at all, which is crazy because people continue to fight about other social issues, but all of a sudden, that issue, nobody cares. You can have a boyfriend, girlfriend of whatever race you want, and nobody freaks out, which is great. And I think one thing that supports that trend is advertisers realize that if you put a biracial couple in your ad, say for bank loans or something, you can hit two demographics at once. And advertisers love that. And so, that's one place in which, capitalism has supported a positive social trend.
Hey, Sasha, one of the things that I've always admired about Ivan is that he has this network that he shares of regular videos of what's going on in the war and all along those lines. And we used to have such kind of organizations here, whether it was Radio Free America or Radio Free Voice of America or Radio Free Europe or Radio Liberty and everything like that. But even Elon Musk is talking about threatening and shutting down some of those media outlets that were actually international in focus. I mean, they've been historically international in focus. And I know that that's one of the things that they've been talking about shutting down. So as one that has seen, and I wish I could think of the name of that network, the one I'm talking about, because he always brings videos from them and everything. How important is it for us to have a free press and to have a press that gives some voices from other communities around the world and everything like that?
Well, you mentioned Elon Musk.
Right.
He and all those groups that rules United States today, including Trump, J.D. Vance, and many others, their goal is to crush democracy around the world, starting with the United States. Russia and China are already there, so the United States will have all ammunition and conditions to join Russia and China. So the only place is which is still has some freedoms and democracy is Europe and Ukraine. So now the goal is to crush Ukraine, which they are doing tremendous job of doing just that. And then they have to crush Western Europe. Once they will crush Ukraine, because if they will go ahead as planned and create a new military organization which will include Ukraine and all countries in Europe that are willing and able to defend together with Ukraine, NATO is no longer the factor. I think NATO basically is a history. So then such organization could defend both Europe and Ukraine and democracy there. If it's not going to happen, that will spell the end of democracy around the world. And the United States is the last democratic country that I would even think about.
So a question for you, Sasha.
Yes.
You're a big investor in tech, and which includes social media. do you think that, you know, that democracy can survive with, given how social media can make people propagandized and crazy?
You know, of course, there will be certain efforts to control social media as much as possible. And because the biggest evidence is not even Twitter, I wouldn't call it representatives of the free world and free press or free any device or platform, any way you want it. But even such well-known platforms like Meta, which Facebook and many others, they're being crushed by Republicans and got them into submission. And Google, actually, all these companies they have to submit to Trump and Musk and others in order to survive. And they have to do it because they have shareholders and they have their employees and so on. So they have to do the best for their company to survive. And this is what all it's going to be about, survival. So you will have to sacrifice certain freedoms, certain ethics, and rules and regulations and so on. Just try to survive. And speaking about investment in high tech, I'm out of it now for quite a while. I've cashed almost all my holdings about 2 3 weeks ago. I have only selected stocks, actually two, no, actually today is three. I added Amazon, but others one are Goldman Sachs, which I'm still suffering with it, I must admit, and Biogen, which I'm doing very well. So that's about it. I've flooded Nvidia holdings. I used to have Meta. I've sold it all 2 3 weeks ago, and I think
Sasha,
the worst is yet to come.
yeah. Sasha
So,
and Rick, this is for both of you and everything. How concerned? Because it seems like every day there is shortages. As a matter of fact, if you go into StreamYard, as I'm in there and y'all are in there now, there is actually a report that Twitter, which is an Elon Musk company, is having some issues on this particular day, March 10th. And apparently there were 3 separate outages that hit them on this particular day and everything. So is this targeted folks that are targeting them like hackers and stuff like that? Or is this just bad luck that Twitter and sometimes Meta and others are having as well? But it does seem like we're having more of these type outages, because I know that I saw one, I think it was around Facebook a couple of days, it might have been a week or two, and now there's this major one on Twitter. So is this targeted government agent?
a lot of people are super pissed off at Elon Musk
Right.
and are vandalizing Tesla dealerships. And so I assume that attacks on X/Twitter are often, like, because people don't like some of the stuff that Musk is doing or stands for. But on the other hand, there are always cyber attacks going on every second of every day. The US versus China versus Russia. There's a whole, we've been at cyber war for 20 years.
Yeah. Well, speaking of being in cyber war and everything, it seems like we're having a attack on the media as well, because I know a lot of folks like quote unquote progressive media, but it does seem like there is this notion that mainstream media isn't relevant anymore. And I know that you do a good job, oftentimes impressed with the research that you do, Sasha, and that's not me blowing smoke, if I can use that expression. That's actually me being very legit, that I am always amazed at the research that you do on an issue that you are passionate about, whether that's Ukraine or whether that's investment or a number of other things. But I know that you don't just depend on Fox or MSNBC, but you do a cross section of media research, which is what all good media people should do. And I do consider you a fellow media person, not just because of our pod TV relationship, but I think that you've done that historically, even in some other forms of your work life and everything. But how concerned are you that people are less supportive of mainstream media?
Well, to understand really what's going on, you have to read not only mainstream media, but you have to do alternative media of other countries, other languages, for example. read between the lines, and make conclusions based on information you got a little bit here and a little bit there. Make conclusions, not just read. Think and make conclusions. For example, Putin just recently, in the last day or two, he forbids his KGB people and any officers and ministers or just anybody badmouth United States or its officials or anybody. So therefore, I would dismiss any threats of electronic espionage from Russia because it's not in Putin's interest. Putin's interest is to get Trump to finish his job of demolishing Ukraine and bring Ukraine on a plate to Putin. Then he will do the same thing with Taiwan. He will bring it on its plate to Emperor Xi. So therefore, Trump will end up his construction of a super triumvirate of him, Putin, and Xi. The only thing what's on his way to do that, believe it or not, is a little Zelensky from Ukraine, and now Western Europe is awakening, and they don't want, now they understand that they will be left alone with or without Ukraine, and Trump will start its tariffs, and China and Russia will be on his side, and it will be difficult with the standard. So therefore, they are going to support Ukraine. They will make a military alliance with Ukraine, which is now the most potent army in Europe, and together with the nuclear powers of France and UK, they will have a very potent way of fighting anybody in the world.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I can see that. Rick, what's your take on the media landscape and what's going on in this space and everything? Because I'm hearing a lot of people that are not friends of local media. I know that there's this notion, even locally, that if it bleeds, it leads, and folks get frustrated by that.
I mean, the problem is messaging space. That people's minds, you can get more messaging, hit more from social media per minute than you can from traditional media. And so it lets people get propagandized and made crazy. And like, newspapers and magazines have a very low messaging rate. They come out once a month, once a week, once a day. They can't compete for speed, so they lose advertising. So they get smaller and smaller. The LA Times used to be 100 pages every day of a newspaper. Now it averages about 30 pages a day. It's a sad little newspaper. So are a bunch of newspapers across the U.S. The ones, New York City, in the heyday of newspapers, had 20 newspapers a day. Now they're down to 3. Magazines, Vogue magazine, its September issue, used to be 1,000 pages thick. No more. Now they're, and book publishing is tough. People, have been made less, don't have the ability to focus, to get through an entire book. So yeah, it's tough but reporting still has a legitimate job to do.
Speaking of that legitimate job and everything, this is for both you and Sasha. I know that Reporters Without Borders has weighed into this notion, and we've talked about it before, even on this show. Should politicians have the right to decide who gets to cover them and everything? Because even Reporters Without Borders said, and I quote, "No politician should get to decide which journalist gets to cover them, but President Trump keeps opening news fronts in this war on the press." And I know there's been this whole conversation as to AP and whether it should be called the Gulf of Mexico or the Gulf of America and all along those lines. And then now they've also barred certain press agencies from coming to the White House press conferences, and they've also rearranged the desk because apparently some high-profile outlets such as Washington Post and CNN are now having more Trump-friendly places like Newsmax.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that even if they can't come to these press conferences, they can still do reporting. And reporters, mainstream media, still has a job to do of fact checking.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I keep talking about this Peyton McNabb, this girl who claimed she got brain damage from being hit in the head with a volleyball by a trans player. And there's her story. There's a lot of bullshit in it, and like nobody has fact checked her. The newspaper said the ball that hit her in the head was traveling at 70 miles an hour. And I spent like just a minute looking at the video, and you can slow it down and watch it frame by frame and find out that this thing that's been widely reported, especially in the conservative press, is bullshit. The ball was traveling 41 miles an hour, which is a completely normal speed in a varsity volleyball game. And apparently, the girl who spiked the ball that hit her isn't even trans. I don't know how to research that. But I don't see any newspapers, any media sources like doing the basic job of fact checking bullshit. And it's hard because Trump made 30,000 public misstatements in his 1,400 days as president, the first time he was president. That's 21 lies a day. It's hard to keep up with the bullshit, but
sometimes one way that you can keep up with the bullshit is history. Because one of the things that I watched last night, well, actually this morning, is a movie called Lawless, which is basically a take on the Prohibition era and a major steal. I think it was in the Appalachian area and everything like that. And the brothers that raised that and created that and everything, it was basically about them fighting against some very corrupt law people. And it is, it was that historical stories that have now been backed up by fact, because it was one of those historical narratives. And so I'm sure it's got some made up parts of it as well, but it definitely gave you that idea of prohibition and used facts. Because even in this whole Trump era, we're hearing people saying that at the end of the day, I think even David Walker said that on our earlier show, that history will be the true determinant of whether he was a great president or a only decent president or a horrible president, because history, you have the retrospective perspective of history and everything.
But history is too late. It doesn't matter. You need real-time fact checking. And Trump, being a lifelong bullshitter, has learned the tactic of flooding the zone with bullshit, because it's called the Gish Gallop. There's an official term for it, where you throw out so much bullshit per minute that people cannot keep up and can't debunk all the crap you said.
But Rick, isn't part of the problem that media itself has lost the trust of America? Because I'm reading this thing where they're saying America's trust in the news media is in a steady decline. There was a Gallup recent poll that showed that only 31% trust the media a great deal or a fair amount, perhaps even more shocking. A new UK survey showed more Americans trust the Trump administration than the media to state the facts fully, accurately, and fairly. So they actually trust Trump more than they do the media, which is, to me,
that's no excuse for the media failing to do its job.
No, I agree with you on that. Hey, Sasha, just really quickly, one of his allies and friends, and we've said that on several shows and everything like that. Most people, I would argue, think that Putin is the world's worst person and is probably the most corrupt and most evil that has ever existed in life and everything. But will history maintain that, or will he sometimes find a way to have his stance softened if he is to ever, well, he will pass, we all pass at some point or another. So when he eventually is no longer here, will his stance be softened? Because I mean, there's even been different views of the way that people think about Stalin and Gorbachev and a number of other Russian leaders now versus then, because even then a number of those folks were seen to be horrible folks, and now you've got some people that are softening their viewpoint about them. Now some of these are people that have a a reason for wanting to soften their viewpoint. They might be part of the communist or socialist nation or something like that, but there is some times that some of these folks have had their views softened. I've seen that, and I think you've seen it as well. But what is your take as to whether we've seen some Russian leaders that had bad reputations now having the America and the public having a different view of them?
Well, America was gifted on November 5th election someone to become a president by the name Donald Trump. In this case, you don't have to worry yourself about Putin or Stalin or Hitler or Mussolini or just anybody. You have Trump. You don't need anything else. You've got your Trump, and you will be affected by it, including your pocketbook, including your well-being, your families, everything for at least next year and a half until midterm election. There is no other way around. Stock market is collapsing, so IRS accounts of many people will be completely destroyed, and your properties will go down, your trade relations will all suffer as a result of it. A lot of businesses are suffering already as we speak. So why do we need Stalin or any other heroic leaders of Russia when you have Trump, which is accumulates everything what's been done in Russia for the last 100 years.
So the arbitrator of truth. Now, so a lot of Americans aren't familiar with Stalin at all.
Right.
But I don't think he's been rehabilitated. Stalin killed, I don't know, probably 10 million of his own people, more.
Much more.
Actually, no, like, I mean, considering his 50 million. I don't know.
Excuse me, let me just very quickly, I'll try to do it as quickly as possible. The evil of Stalin was that not only he had 50 million people in Gulag, and very few of those survived. In order to arrest these people, to bring them into camera, to sue them, to prosecute them, to get them from the jail to the actual camp of Gulag, and keep them there required the same number of people, 50 million people, who had to administer this horrible machine. And today, what's happened in Russia? Russia is ruled by grandchildren of these jailers. So you understand how sick Russian society is, and you understand what Russia is doing with Ukraine, and you understand why Trump is supporting Putin 100%, because he is a flame. He is a psychopath. He is a sick person. He is a madman. He is a con man. He is a criminal. That's all what he is.
But when it comes to truth, the arbitrator of truth is going to end up being AI, because when you're barraged with bullshit from all sides, the only technology that can absorb all the bullshit and decide what's true or not will be AI, which is a problem because AI is also a manufacturer of bullshit. And which means in the future, as today, we will constantly be falling for bullshit and then realizing we fell for bullshit and, you know, figuring out the truth of stuff while we're falling for different bullshit.
No comments. Where people are getting the AI information? Mostly from Facebook, right? TikTok. What else? Okay, let's consider.
I still use. I mean, the social medium I still use almost exclusively is X, Twitter, and
that's worse. That's much worse than.
Yeah, it's like walking, you know, through a sewage spill.
Because you see, even today, Meta is still less regulated than Facebook, because Meta is It's really a social platform. Of course, they had to remove a lot of regulations as per Trump's request, and because all of them are being MSNBC, all of them are scared of Elon Musk and Trump. So they're basically all they're trying to survive. They don't care one way or another. There will be less regulations, more regulations. All they trying to survive, trying that business will continue to generate revenue, and that's all there is to it. So it was I'm quite skeptical about all concept of AI. I really don't see how it impacts the lives of average people today, and I don't see anything will change in the near future. And make all those predictions of what's going to happen in 10, 20, 50 years. I'm not very interested really. Because AI, in fact, essentially, it's a applied means to certain industries, certain processes. As itself, it's worth nothing, really, zero. There is zero value as a standalone situation. It's applied value. That's what makes it quite interesting. But applied all depends who applies, to what applies, how applies, and so on. So there are a lot of questions remains. But the standalone, to me, AI is really worth nothing.
Yeah, but in the hands of people, good or bad, that when they use it, it's a tool for generating a ton of content. What you think depends on who you talk to and who you read and what messages you see. And I always compare myself to my dad, who was a small businessman. He owned a ladies' ready-to-wear store in Boulder, Colorado in the 60s and the 70s. And what he thought and what he knew was based on talking with his friends. He was out, in his store or on the sidewalk in front of his store, talking to friends and customers and playing poker once a week with his buddies and seeing a half hour of national news at night, reading the newspaper in the morning and another newspaper at night. And he had, I didn't agree with all his politics. He was Republican, but he wasn't unreasonable. He had thought he was, he was not a crazy person. But now I'm in the middle of I see thousands of messages a day on Twitter, and I try to mute the ones that are spreading mindless bullshit. But I talk to my wife. I don't have that many friends that I talk to on a daily basis. All the messaging is coming in through social media, and that messaging is generated by lunatics or people who want to make people more into lunatics.
Okay, here is my take. First of all, your dad relied on the social sphere where he knew people, they were his friends, so he relied on them, he trusted them. They are real people. Today's social media completely excludes that factor. So you don't know what you're reading is a lie, who generated that. You have no idea. So if I were you, honestly, I would stop using any social media. You don't need it, really. I'm using occasionally YouTube and looking and watching only people that I trust from based on their previous sports, sort of their videos, what they generated a month ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. So there is a track record, and I know that these people are for real, and they definitely provide most likely the truthful information. Most likely, not saying 100%, but most likely. That's good enough for me. Of course, YouTube is wonderful for listening to music of all kinds, including classical music and jazz and Beatles and just anything. So therefore, when you are in YouTube, you select what you want to hear, what you want to see. You don't have it on X, you don't have it on Facebook. You have to absorb whatever you are being bombarded at. On YouTube, you're not.
We're going to find out more about the media contest. I've got to end early because I got to get to the timeshare because neither of the other leaders are here. So I've got to do their show. So we're going to end media, but we'll learn more about this contest and everything as I get ready to go deal with the timeshare folks. But we're going to get on out of here and I'll deal with the timeshare folks. But another great conversation. And we'll see you on later on this week and next week as well. So take it easy. We've got
Thank you.
Modern Investment on Wednesday. And of course, we got Ukraine, Russia, China tomorrow. So we'll be having these great conversations.
See you
On
then.
that note, we're getting ready to get on out of here.
Bye bye.